Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. Hope you're all really well. Hope you're all enjoying the festive period. It's getting closer now. It's been such an exciting month. I think like I said at the start of last episode, I just love this time of year. Everybody's just in a much better mood and it's just so cozy and everything about this season is just a bit of me. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. This week, we are following on from last week's episode, which is hopefully going to tee you up for the new year and getting all those goals and plans and everything that you want to achieve down. Understanding how to set them was last week's episode. So talking around the best ways to make goals, to decide how to set your goals for you with the year ahead. And then this week, we're going to be talking about how we can achieve them, because we can have all of the best laid plans, but it's only actually actioning them that will get you where you want to be. You don't want to look back at the end of the year having laid all these amazing goals down in January or December and not have actioned them or not have put the strategies and plans in place to achieve them, and then look back and think, well, that would have been nice if I'd have saved that money and moved house or progressed in my career, whatever it might be. So today we're going to talk a little bit around the things that I put in place and the things that I've learned over the last few years of doing this process each year that have really helped me. And there's probably loads of stuff that I'm not going to cover today. There's probably things that you might do or that you've heard of or that you have kind of read about, things like that I'm not going to cover. But this is just my process, and take from it what you want. Some of it might work for you, some of it might not. Motivation's only going to get us so far. So I think that's the first thing that I want to say. We can make all of these amazing goals and objectives for the year ahead, or maybe even, smaller chunks than that. It might be that you're just setting goals monthly at the moment. It might be that you don't want to look at the whole year. Maybe that doesn't work for you, but however long the period is that you're setting the goal for, we can look at these goals when we set them and get really fired up, really excited, looking at the bigger picture, looking at the end goal. But after the first few days or weeks, motivation wanes, doesn't it? You've probably all been there with maybe a gym plan or a healthy eating lifestyle change, and you've got all the ingredients in, you've got your gym kit, you've made your plan. After 3 or 4 days, or maybe a week or two if you're lucky, you start to get less excited about getting up and going to the gym first thing, or making that smoothie, or making those healthy meals for dinner. And you just fuck it off and you just think, or it just becomes less and less. You just end up doing it less and less, and then it falls by the wayside. And then you're looking back in a few months thinking, oh yeah, I never did carry on with that thing. So motivation will only get you so far. You need to connect with your why, and then you need to put in place proper strategies to be able to get there. And connecting with your why is like really intrinsic. It's that thing inside you that when you look at the goal, it's that burning fire. It's what gives you the passion to want to achieve it. So for me, I guess my goals this year at the start of the year were mainly centered around business. They were centered around finances, and intrinsically, I wanted to achieve that goal because I wanted the business to be a success, but I also wanted to have the flexibility that working for another business wasn't given me. So that was really intrinsic. The other thing, so other than having the motivation of wanting something, there was also a massive fear around failure and a fear around having to go back to employment and where I'd come from. So your why doesn't have to be something that you want to achieve. I mean, it does have to be something that you want to achieve, but the reason that you want it doesn't have to be that you're running towards something. It could be that you're running away from something. So you might not 100% know exactly where you want to end up in your career, but you might know that you just want to get out of the job that you're in at the moment. Or you might not know 100% at this point what house you want to move to next or where you want to end up living. But you might know that this year is the year that you want to move out of the area that you're in or the house that you're in because it's had, I don't know, loads of issues with it. So you can be motivated by different things, and that's a really good place to start. You need to connect to it. You need to really look at those goals and be like, you know what, this is why I want to achieve this. I think I've mentioned this book before, but it's a really good book by a guy called Simon Sinek, Sinek, called Start With Why. And that delves into understanding the why around things. It delves into like the science of understanding motivation and why we do things, and how you need to connect to that in order to achieve a goal. Because especially when they're annual goals, you're not going to keep your motivation going all year. Like, you're just not. So yeah, so that's the first thing. Connect with your why. And it could be a real intrinsic passion for wanting to do something. It could be that you want to get in shape because you've got a holiday coming up. It could be that it could be one of many things, but it could also be that you're being motivated a little bit by fear and wanting to get away from something, and that's fine. Your why is your why. That is the bit that you need to start with, the motivation and the why. And then write them down. So we talked last week around how do you set goals? How do you look at what you want, look at evaluating all the areas of your life and really set goals for the year ahead. And in doing that, we break them down into quarters. So write down your goals, whether that be, I write down my big annual goals and then I break them down into quarters for each point in the year. So for instance, I'll use the analogy that I used last time, or the example that I used last time, which was saving 10K. So I would put save 10K in my annual goals, and then I would break that down to maybe 2,500 per quarter. It might be that if you're in a job where you get a bonus, or you know that you are going to be spending more in the summer, that you break that down, like you weight it differently throughout the year. But either way, write it down so that you know what your overall goal is, and then what you need to do each quarter or month to achieve that. There was studies done. So Harvard and Yale have both been quoted or cited as doing studies on this. So in 1953, a team of researchers interviewed Yale's graduating seniors and asked them whether they'd written down specific goals that they wanted to achieve in life. 20 years later, the researchers tracked down the same cohort and found that the 3% of people who had written down specific goals all these years before had accumulated more personal wealth than the 97% of their classmates combined. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. And there was a similar study done in 1979 by Harvard. Now, unfortunately, these have both been proven to be a load of bollocks. Not in the content, but in the fact that nobody can actually find any information. These have been famously quoted now, these studies, for years, and nobody can seem to find actual evidence. So we're not sure that they actually happened. We think it's unlikely. However, the premise of what is at the core of these studies is so true. I'm not saying if you write down your goals, you're going to be richer than the other percentage of people that don't, but writing something down, committing it to either paper or your phone, looking at it, so coming back to it, having it there, it helps you to focus on the outcome and to visualize. And I did an episode on this. I think it was on visualization, or it might have been on like gratitude or manifestation, but we spoke about visualization and the science behind it and the power behind it. And what I tend to do is I'll write my goals down, but then I also create a digital vision board on Canva, and that sits on my desktop that I use every single day on my laptop, and it also is my phone screensaver. So every single day I am looking at those big goals, and I think that is probably why I achieved my revenue target this year, because even though I actually took it off my main goals board, it's been on that vision board all year. I think having that reminder, having something that just continually forces you to look at what you want, will naturally course correct you throughout the year as well. Because if you're looking at a picture of a new house and it's October and you're still sat in your other house and you haven't done anything about moving, you're probably more likely to put the wheels in motion than if you get to the end of the year and you've not had a visual reminder or a written down reminder of what that goal even was. I know people that have literally written down their goals, put them in the back of a book and never looked at them again all year. And then they come back at the end of the year and go, oh yeah, I didn't do that. Oh, I forgot I wanted to do that. So put it somewhere that you're going to see it all the time. And actually, we're going to use this to break it down into the quarters and the months. So you're going to need to be able to refer back to it. But having a visual, I don't know why I said it like that, visual reminder or vision board, for me, that is such a great way of making sure that these things are like constantly at the forefront of my mind. So write the goals down, have a visual reminder, however you want to do it. I've got friends that still do it the old fashioned way. They'll like literally look at magazines and print things out and stick them on a board. I've got others that do it the same way that I do, digitally. And then I've also got, actually, and this is something that I don't even think my best friends know, I've got a Instagram account that I don't follow anybody on and I don't let anybody follow me on. And it's actually a digital vision board. So I will put pictures on there of things that not only do I want to manifest, but things that I have manifested. So my goals and dreams for the future, as well as things that have happened. And I don't take stuff off there because once it's happened, it's just a reminder for me that I've achieved that. And actually, it was really interesting because I think I might have posted this when it happened. So maybe some of you do know this. But if you don't know me personally, we went to the Maldives to get married last year. Nobody knew that we were doing it. I say nobody knew. A few people knew beforehand because we'd done our UK wedding and told people about that like 2 weeks before, a week and a half before, something like that. But most people didn't know that we were going to the Maldives to get married. And when we went to Maldives, we stayed in a water villa, and I took a picture of this water villa. And whilst I was over there, I was uploading it to my private Instagram account. And I just happened to scroll back and look at what I'd put. And this was in July 2021 that I had posted a picture on there. So we didn't even decide until like January, February last year that we were even going to the Maldives, let alone getting married over there. And I'd posted in July 2021 that we were so grateful to have been able to stay in the place that we'd stayed in the Maldives, and that we'd fallen in love all over again over there. And it was almost an identical representation of the villa that I'd posted. And it was just like such a reminder that if you visualize this stuff, if you connect to it, if you create a reminder of why you want it, it does happen. Like, yes, you have to take action. Yes, we had to book the Maldives. Yes, we had to save for it. But this stuff happens. And actually, you make it happen a lot more if you're constantly reminded of why you want it, or constantly reminded of something that you do want. And that for me was just a little, like, it was just a nice moment, because I'd completely forgotten about that picture. And in all honesty, I don't use that Instagram account every day. Like, it's probably once every few weeks that I'll add to it and look at it. So, and I don't scroll back all that often. I probably should do actually a bit more. But because I've got my yearly vision board on my desktop on my phone, that one's more of like a long-term life goals. But yeah, anyway, write them down, create a visual representation. However you respond best, do that, and make sure that you have it in front of you and accessible. So break them down, like we said last week, into quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily type actions. You're not going to look at yearly goals and probably know immediately how you want to tackle them. You need to break it down. You need to make them bite-sized, you need to make them manageable, and you need to make them achievable. And like I said last week, if you're doing something or wanting to achieve something that is really big and really lofty, you want the overall goal to scare you. What you don't want to scare you is the daily or weekly actions that you need to take to get there. Because if the stuff you need to do every day or every week is too big, you're just not going to do it. So again, let's use the analogy of saving money. If you want to save 10k and you know that that is a big lofty goal for you, but actually breaking that down into however much it is a month or a week, depending on how you get paid, is much more achievable, then you're going to do that. If you only earn 20 grand a year and breaking it down to monthly or weekly is still really unachievable, the likelihood of you staying motivated to do that and actually consistently saving is probably quite slim. So you need to make this part, the breaking it down part, manageable. The overall goals can still be a challenge or quite lofty. So goals become quarterly, monthly, daily actions, which in turn become habits. And it is only in making the habits that we're going to become successful in achieving our goals. Habits are basically strategies that we're going to use to achieve the goals. Now, before you put in place the strategies and create the habits, what I like to do, and what's probably quite a good idea, is to look at the obstacles that you might have. So, for instance, if you want to get into the best shape of your life this year, but you know that you've got 5 all-inclusive holidays, you're going to need to work around those, and you're going to want to put in place habits and processes and ways of achieving things that are going to work around those and are not going to completely ignore them, because nobody wants to go on holiday and have to watch what they eat, watch what they drink. You might be a really healthy person. Like, I'm not somebody that goes on holiday and literally just overindulges every day, because it doesn't make me feel good. But I'll definitely enjoy myself more and not like calorie count. Not that I calorie count day to day anyway, but you know what I mean. So look at the obstacles. It might be like, for instance, I know this year, when I went in to do the year, I wanted to do 100 days straight, no drinking, no alcohol. I knew I wanted to do it for my business, but I also knew that I wanted to do it because creating that length of time without it is something that I'd not done before. And it was something that I knew if I could achieve that I could do longer stints. I knew that within 100 days, you're going to have things that come up. You're going to have, like, I don't know, birthdays or weddings or celebrations. I mean, just a weekend, to be honest, was a drinking occasion for me at that point. So I looked at that and I thought, like, what's coming up? So my birthday is in January. I wasn't overly fussed about that because I knew that my birthday is, I wouldn't say it's not a big occasion, but it's January. Most people are watching their money. Most people are just, I guess, a little bit more cautious in terms of, you know, maybe doing dry January, watching what they eat. Nobody's ever normally in a big party mood. So I don't really ever do kind of like big parties. Normally, at the most, we will like go away somewhere. But I knew this year that we were just staying local and low key, and we got a dinner planned. So that was going to be fine for me to not drink at the dinner. It wasn't normal, but it was something that I was able to commit to. But then there were other occasions during the next however many weeks, like the next few months, where I knew that I could be derailed. So it was a choice then as to how I would handle those. Like, would I look at it and think, well, actually, I don't have to go to that and I can cancel that? Or would I just need to find other ways around it? So making sure that the place we were going to had alcohol-free alternatives, making sure that my friends knew why I was doing this. There was loads of things that I put in place just to ensure that in those first 100 days, I wasn't derailed. There was also bank holidays that came up where I knew there was going to be a big temptation to drink. So it was putting in place plans and things that we were going to do where, like, I wouldn't want to be hungover. And then by the time I got to that point, I didn't want to stop anyway because I'd done like 90 odd days. So look at the obstacles, think about what could go wrong, what could fuck this up for me, and make sure that you're putting in place contingency plans and being aware of them. Burying your head in the sand and saying, like, I don't know, oh, I'm going to lose 5 stone this year, but also having a holiday every month. It's not a good plan. You've got to work around things. You can't not have a life all year, but you need to weigh up what's more important to you. Is it the goal, or is it whatever's going to derail you? And do you know what? It's fine. Like, if you want to enjoy your holidays this year, maybe it's not the best year to get in the best shape of your life. Or maybe if you want to save for a house, then booking in 3 or 4 holidays isn't the best plan. You need to kind of balance things with what you want to achieve versus what's realistic and actually what you want to do. And also remember that in December or January, when you're doing this process, you're probably going to be wanting to do everything. But as the year goes on and motivation wanes, you need to be realistic in what you can achieve and what you can do. And that's not me saying, oh, you need to bring your goals and plans down a level, but it is saying doing everything in 1 year probably isn't going to happen because things clash. You're not going to get fit, buy a house, go on 5 holidays, have a baby, all of these things in 1 year, because if you have a baby, you're probably not going to get in the best shape of your life. If you go on 3 or 4 holidays, you're probably not going to be saving for a house. Maybe you are. Maybe you can do all this stuff. I certainly know people that are capable of it. But I'd say for your average person, you're going to want to make sure that the obstacles that are in place are not going to offset you to the point that you get completely derailed. And if they are, maybe adjust your goals. So look at the obstacles. And then we need to create the daily habits. The decisions that you make on the life that you want are going to create your habits. So the daily decisions that you make are going to create your life. Whether you get up in the morning and go to the gym is going to determine whether you get that physique that you wanted. Whether you blow all your money on payday weekend or whether you put away into investments on the day that you get paid is going to determine the quality of your life in retirement. There's so many decisions that we make daily that determine our future life. And at that time, at that point that you make the decision, you might not realize the true impact of it. You might just think, it's one day, what does it matter? But actually, the science of habits and decision making means that it does matter. Now, I'm not saying if you decide not to go to the gym one day because you're not feeling like great or you're not feeling well, that's going to derail your goals. Absolutely not. But if you consistently decide to skip gym sessions, you can't expect to have the physique that you want. If you consistently decide to spend rather than save, you're not going to hit your financial goals. So you need to create good habits. And in doing so, it's a consistent decision-making process that you get into. Habits are basically just making the decision. You don't think about brushing your teeth now every day, do you? Well, I hope that you don't. I would hope that is just a habit. And if it's not, you probably want to make it one. But you don't think about brushing your teeth because it's just something that you do. And that has become a habit because since you were small, your parents or your guardians or whoever brought you up would have made you brush your teeth twice a day. So it's getting into the habits of doing these things. So for example, for me, I knew this year that I wanted to, after I'd had a period of ill health, I'd had COVID, I'd been run down in the summer, I'd been back and forth to Birmingham helping to care for my nan who was poorly, and I just kept getting ill and my gut health and immune system was just like shot to bits. So I knew that I wanted to put something in place to help with my gut health. And the product that I found, a product called Simprove, is a daily drink, but you have to have it before you eat or drink. You can have it 2 hours before you eat or drink later in the day, but the ideal habit to get into is having it first thing in the morning before you've eaten or drank anything. Now, I was in the habit of making a coffee first thing, or my husband bringing me a coffee first thing, and just drinking that in bed and then getting up and doing my day. But I needed to get into the habit of doing this. So for the first few days and weeks that I was doing it, it wasn't a habit. It was something I was having to consciously think about. Whereas now I just get up in the morning and it's the first thing that I do. I just go downstairs, half asleep, cap of Simproof, come back to bed with my coffee and then wait 10 minutes and then I can eat a drink. Likewise, I knew that I wanted to start investing this year. I knew that creating a pot outside of my pension was something that I really wanted to get into the habit of doing. We're not talking loads. We're not talking, thousands a month. But I wanted to put a little bit away each month just to have that compound effect of investing consistently until retirement. But it was something that I wasn't in the habit of doing. And actually the platform that I use to invest, it's got a really weird way. You can set up a direct debit, but it's got a really weird way of taking the money. And some months I'd think it had gone and it hadn't. And then I'd end up with less than I thought I'd got to spare. It was just a bit of a clusterfuck. So the habit that I got into was putting that money into that pot the day that I pay myself. So the day that I pay myself from my business now, I will put that money straight into that investment account. I can't touch it and it's done. And it goes straight in. And so I know that the money's gone out of my current account. And the way that I have made sure that I do these things before they've become a habit is to set reminders and calendar appointments. So with my reminders, they'll just flash up at the time of the thing. So the Simprove, I would put the reminder on for the same time as my alarm. So when I turn my alarm off, I'd see on my phone, Simprove, I know that you're not meant to use your phone as an alarm. I know you're not meant to look at it first thing in the morning. We're working on that. So that was the one way that I would get to, essentially remind myself. And also calendar appointments. I book my week out on a Sunday. I think I'm going to do a podcast episode on that actually, because it's something the other day that I just suddenly realised not everyone does this and it's a massive, massive help. But on a Sunday, I will literally look at my calendar. I'll look at what I've got on that week. I'll look at what I need to do work-wise. And I will set appointments with myself for things like doing a workout, going for a walk, whatever it might be that I want to achieve that week based on my bigger goals. I'll put appointments in my calendar and I will keep to them like I would a dentist appointment or the hairdressers. So set reminders, make calendar appointments. Now, the other thing that is a really good sort of strategy for achieving your habit, and this is something that I learned from the book Atomic Habits, which again, I think I've mentioned before, a guy called James Clear, amazing book. I'll link it in the show notes. But he talks about something called habit stacking. And that is basically creating a habit on top of an existing habit that triggers you into performing that action. So it could be doing squats whilst you brush your teeth. So every morning when you brush your teeth, you do squats for the 2 or 3 minutes that you're brushing your teeth for. It could be, like for me, I wanted to get into the habit of using nail oil before bed. I've got gel nails, and in the winter months especially, they like peel and come off if you don't have hydrated nails. But I just wasn't in the habit of using the nail oil. So I decided to do it before I went to bed. And the action of getting into bed and taking my contraceptive pill, which I take in the evening, now triggers me to think, oh, nail oil. And I've actually put the nail oil next to my supplements and my pill. And again, that's another thing. Supplements, I take my supplements in the evening, and other than my gut health drink, which I have in the morning. And again, I get into bed now, I take my pill, take my supplements, do my nail oil, do my eye drops. It's like trigger actions. I don't have to think about it because doing one triggers the other. So habit stack, think about what you want to do. Podcast listening, for instance. I do this now every single morning religiously. I will pick a podcast and I'll listen to it in the shower whilst I'm getting ready, on my morning walk. I try and stack habits where possible onto existing habits, like having a shower is just a habit for me. You know, you don't think about having a shower in the morning. So if you can be listening to something educational or motivational whilst you're doing that, and then whilst you're, I don't know, doing your hair or doing your makeup or whatever, then that for me is now just a habit. So think about where you can stack your existing habits. Do you have a ritual in the morning of having a coffee? Is there something that you could be doing whilst you're having that coffee that would benefit you in the long term? Do you want to start taking supplements? Can you listen to podcasts whilst you go to the gym? Maybe that will make it a little bit easier for you, a bit more fun. There's so many habits that you can stack on top of each other, but they'll all be individual to you. Like, you know, the way that you currently run your life will be so individual, but you will be able to stack things on top. So get that book. It's a really, really good read or audible listen. Or actually, if you've got Spotify now and you're on premium, they do like 15 hours a month, I think, of books that you can listen to, which is absolutely awesome. So that's one of them. So yeah, Atomic Habits, James Clear, habit stacking. And then the other thing that I have done, which can't remember which book this was from that I read it in. I think it might have been either a book called Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas or Rich as Fuck by Amanda Francis. Again, 2 amazing money mindset books. But one of them spoke about, it might be both of them to be honest, spoke about like life upgrades and creating better processes. I sat down with my husband at the start of this year and we decided that we wanted to make the process of food shopping and eating just a little bit easier and simpler. The food shop was something that we always left to the last minute, and we either ended up doing it on a weekend when it ate into our weekend time, or one of us would have to go in the week. It was just a ball ache, to be honest. And then also the cooking was something that he does. It was always like, oh, what do you want for dinner tonight? Or let's see what we've got. Oh, we've got this, or you've got this, because I don't eat all types of meat. It was just getting a bit laborious. So we decided to upgrade, and well, I say upgrade, it's actually worked out cheaper for us, but we get Gusto delivered now. So you can get Gusto, Mindful Chef, Green Chef, HelloFresh, all those kind of like meal delivery boxes. So that was something that we've done, which we've implemented into our lives, into our week. And it just enables us to create a healthier eating habit. And also it's taken away the stress and the hassle of having food delivered, because you literally just pick meals each week and they deliver them to your door. It's amazing. So that is something that we did at the start of the year. Something that I've done for my business is invest in an accountant. So I've upgraded. It's quite a big investment because it's not cheap, but the hassle and the stress of doing your own accounts, VAT, everything, PAYE, it's just a ball ache. It's not my forte. I'm very financially savvy, but when it comes to like the actual accountancy side, like, no, it's not my bag. I want to free up my time to have like more time doing the things that I want to do for my business to create revenue, and managing the finances is not one of them. So I've upgraded and invested in an accountant, which has literally saved my life. It's changed my life. And then the other thing that I've also done is put the vitamins and supplements that I regularly buy, so the Simprove, my multivitamins, my de-bloat tablet, all of the things that I have tried this year, which I've really, really benefited from, they're all now on subscription. So I don't have to think about them. I don't even have to give it a second thought. They just arrive at my door. Once I finish one box, the next box arrives. In fact, there's a bit of a crossover. So look at how you can streamline processes in your life to achieve your goals. If you want to get fitter or healthier, can you create a process whereby you have subscription deliveries for food or for supplements? Are there areas in your life which are sapping your energy, which you're putting energy into that you just don't need to be? I've got friends that have upgraded to a cleaner this year because they hate cleaning. Like, I personally absolutely love cleaning, and I listen to a podcast whilst I clean, and it gives me great joy. So that isn't something that I've made the investment in, but I know people that have, and it's freed up hours of their week and just mental energy that they can put into working on their business or spending time with their kids, or whatever you want to do. That time is then freed up. So look at the processes that you've got where they're sapping your energy, or where you're like, do you know what, I need to put something in place to ensure that that's getting done, and create where you can. And like I say, things like the meal deliveries, it's actually saving us money. Not only is it saving time, but we're spending less. So where you think that it might be a financial output, it sometimes isn't. So have a look, and you might be surprised. Now, the one thing that we can't get away from with achieving goals, the one thing that is going to be the true whether your goal is finance or fitness related or relationships or spirituality, is consistency. The only way we are going to get our goals achieved, we are going to look back and have had a successful year, is consistency. It's the compound effect. You have to do the small things for them to create the bigger things. What's that saying about look after the pennies and the pennies will look after the pounds? If you consistently save small amounts, it becomes a big amount. It's the compound effect. And I recently heard an amazing analogy on this, and it really, really resonated. And I was like, wow, it's impactful. So a plane traveling from Los Angeles, flying directly to Rome in Italy, the flight will take about 12 hours. And if the plane goes in a straight line. But if the nose of the plane is pointed just 1 degree off course to the south, after 12 hours, the plane will land in Tunisia in Africa. So if you want to be in Rome and you don't want to end up in Tunisia, you need to stay on course. And the compound effect is exactly that. Those 1 degrees of change aren't noticeable at the start, but after an amount of time, they're noticeable because they're taking you massively off course. And the same is true in reverse. That 1% might not feel like a lot at the moment, but it adds up. So that pound that you save every day might not feel like a lot right now, but over the course of the year, it adds up to, £365. That gym session that you do, you might not be thinking that it's making any change, but if you did before and after pictures at the start and end of the year, and you went consistently 3 or 4 times a week, you're going to see the effects. So this stuff adds up. The compound effect it's real, it's science, and it's just, how things happen over a period of time and how they compound. There is a book called The Compound Effect. It's quite heavy going, but there's a few books actually that talk about this stuff. But yeah, essentially Atomic Habits touches on that as well. But isn't that wild? 1 degree of difference can put you in a completely different country over time. Like that just blew my mind, and it really resonated, because I think so often we'll think this isn't making any difference, but you just don't realise. I think for me, I've learnt this year with my network. Like, I didn't realise just how much I was building up my professional network over this last decade until this year. It's really come into its own, and I've really had to rely on it. And if I hadn't put in that 10 years of work, which at the time I didn't realise was having such an impact, there's no way that my business would have been successful this year. There's just not. So when you're thinking about each day and whether or not you should save the money or take the supplements or go to the gym or phone that friend, you're putting like pebbles into the pot each time towards that goal, towards that achievement. And then the final thing is regular check-ins. You need to make sure that you're not ending up in Tunisia, and you don't want to look at the end of the flight and be like, shit, I should have been in a different country. You want to make sure that you can course correct throughout. So breaking your goals down to quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily is a really good way to do this. If you're not hitting your daily goals, it's a lot easier to look at the end of the week and be like, right, why haven't I hit that? Than look at the end of the year and realise there's absolutely no chance of you course correcting. So check in regularly. Look at, am I tracking against where I need to be? If not, why? Are these obstacles I didn't foresee? I mean, things are going to come up, right? I have had so much come up this year that has meant that I could have quite easily gone off course. But what I did was just check in and course correct at the time. You know, things that couldn't be helped, family health issues that meant that I wasn't able to focus on my business pretty much for the whole of September. But I've course corrected now. I've done the things, put things in place to make sure that I overachieved in other months and, you know, consistently did the absolute bare minimum. And have an accountability buddy for this. It's really, really important that you've got people that you trust in your circle, unless you are an absolute don at keeping yourself accountable. And some people are, like, some people are just really good at this stuff. But for me, I like to have somebody or a few people that I can check in with that will, you know, they're not just going to give me lip service. They're going to pull me up on, well, are you doing this? Have you said that you would do this? You know, I've got one friend that I check in with every single day with regard to my business, and I'll ask her advice and I'll ask her to keep me accountable, and she will say, oh, didn't you say you were going to do that? Or hasn't this transpired? Or maybe you should try this tactic. And that really helps me. And likewise, you know, there might be people in your life that don't get this stuff. There might be people who coast through and float through and they're just not on this, and that's fine. But find people that are, and if you haven't got anyone, then, you know, make it me. Come to me, tell me your goals. I love hearing this stuff. But either way, just have somebody that you can check in with and that can help you to keep you on track. So let me just go through those steps again. Let's just summarize. You need to start with your why. Really check in with why you are doing this, why you are wanting the things that you want. It needs to be intrinsic. Write down your goals. Make sure that you write them down as annual goals. You write them down as quarterly goals. And if you are a visual person, have a visual representation, whether that is a vision board or something on your computer, something that you make. Have something that is constantly in your field of vision, reminding you of what you want to achieve. Break them all down. So break them down into more manageable sizes. I do quarterly and then monthly, and that then becomes weekly and daily. But you break it down however you feel fit. Think of the obstacles. Look at what could go wrong. Where are the bits that might derail me? What are the things that might come up that I might not necessarily be able to stay on track through or with? And try and put in place contingency plans, or at least foresee that. Create daily habits. Look at what you need to do daily or weekly to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, and habit stack. look at where your existing habits are, and create habits that align with or stack on top of those that you can create to keep you on track for your new goals. And in doing that, for the first part, you might want to set reminders, set calendar appointments, and create a system that's going to essentially help you to be reminded of what you need to do. Be consistent. Look at the compound effect. How is this going to compound over the year? Be consistent. Make sure that you are keeping appointments with yourself. Make sure that you are creating the consistency that you need to keep things going. And have regular check-ins. Have an accountability buddy. Check in with yourself however often you feel that you need to, but make sure that you are checking in and that you're not looking back at the end of the year and being like, fuck, well, that all went to shit. So one of my goals for this year actually is for next year, I should say, 2024, is to get to 100 reviews on the podcast. I think at the moment I'm on maybe like 8 or 9, something like that. So there's a long way to go. I've got 15 ratings, which is where you do the 5-star, but actual reviews where people kind of write a few words, I've only got, about 8 or 9. Now, this doesn't have to be War and Peace. I mean, if you want to write a paragraph, great, but it could literally just be 2 words. Great podcast, or I don't know, super inspirational, or really helped me, or whatever it is. But I would absolutely love to get to 100 by the end of next year. I don't think that is setting the bar too high, because it is a new podcast and hopefully we're going to get more traction next year. But the only way we're going to get more traction is to get more reviews. So if you would be as kind as to leave a review, and just to do that on Apple. You can do it on Apple even if you don't listen on Apple. You can go onto the Apple podcast platform anyway, because I don't think you can leave actual reviews on Spotify. You can rate it, which would be absolutely incredible. But yeah, my goal is to get 100 reviews, which in turn is going to help me to get the podcast to more people and going to help with the downloads. So yeah, I'm here again asking you, but since we're talking about goals, I'm going to be really transparent and open. I'm quite vulnerable actually, because I think, this stuff, asking people to do something for you is putting yourself out there, isn't it? It's quite a big one. So, but yeah, I would absolutely love it. It would mean the freaking world if you could go and give me a review and get that ball rolling. If I could go into January with like 20 or 30 reviews, that would be amazing, because then we've got the rest of the year to catch up to where I want to be at 100. So thank you so much for listening. I really hope that that's resonated. As always, any questions, any feedback, anything you want to share, drop into either Hello Sunday Pod Instagram or the email, which is going to be at the end of the show on the outro. I've got one more week, guys, one more podcast this year, and then I'm going to be having a short break till the middle of January. But yeah, it's been such a wild ride this year, and I've just loved every single minute. I absolutely love doing this podcast for you, and yeah, it's just such a passion project. But it'd be so good if we can get it to more people next year, because I get such amazing feedback, and I have people every week messaging me saying how much they love it and how much it's resonated, but they never rate and review. And honestly, that is just the one thing that makes all the difference. So thank you. I love you all greatly, and I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.